Okay, we're going to start right on time because I want to help get this moving and then get all of you back home. I'm Larry Sufferton. I'm the Cook County Commissioner who represents Evanston, and I appreciate you all being here. Our co-hosts for this event tonight are Senator Laura Fine, Representatives Jennifer Gong-Gershowitz, Representative Robin Gable, and the city of Evanston. Over here, Walter Matthews is signing. If anyone else needs signing, if you would sit over here, he will interpret what we're saying. Now, we're here a month earlier than normal. Normally, the Board of Review hasn't opened for Evanston until August. The reason we're here is because our anticipation of a much larger number of appeals from Evanston. Last year, we had a little over 6,000 appeals from Evanston. We're expecting over 10,000 this year. And that's because we have a new assessor. Many of you voted for him. This community overwhelmingly supported him. He is attempting to get all properties to their actual value. His theory is that if we get to that point, we won't need seminars like this because we won't need to appeal because the values will stay constant throughout the community. Many of you who were here when the assessments came out and saw the presentations that I gave downstairs, or I've seen the video of them on my website, you know that I had a slide where I did the median increases in each of the Evanston neighborhoods. And with the exception of two neighborhoods, all of them went up significantly because of the way the assessor is approaching it. Now, the assessor is stuck with a formula that is in state law that he is to analyze your property based upon a regressive sales analysis of the last 3 years. Now, in doing that, the values of Evanston properties go up because there have been a lot of very significantly large sales of properties within Evanston in that 3-year period. We're here tonight to go to the Board of Review, which is an independent agency. It's an agency that I call a court of equity. It does not have to look at the sales figures for Evanston. It can look at your property. It can look at the unique characteristics of your property, and it can make decisions based upon that. Now, when we had the prior assessor, when we would do these seminars, we would have about 30% of the people who filed appeals win. This new assessor, we had about 3% of the people win. I've been telling people that he reminds me of the baseball umpires before instant replay because he is absolute in his belief that the number he gave you is correct. Now, that's good for his office, but what's good for you is the fact that we have an independent agency. So tonight, what we're going to do is have Mike Carbonargi, who is our representative on the Board of Review here. He looks like his photo, which will pop up in a second. And he will explain the process for appealing. But before we get into that, I want to just mention to you that we also have the unique circumstance of your tax bill that you've received on July 1st being due on August 1st. And one of the things that my office has been seeing is that many of the Evanston tax bills do not have the proper exemptions. People don't have their homeowners exemptions, they don't have their senior exemptions if they're over 65, or if they've been granted a senior freeze, it is not built into their bill. So if you have your yellow bill with you, please look, and Michael explained in his presentation, where the exemptions are. If you don't have those, my staff over there, Adam Newman, Michelle Jordan, will help you get a new tax bill before it's due. It'll be reprinted, it'll show the reduced amount that you should pay. But it's important to realize the deadline for paying your taxes is August 1st. The deadline for doing an appeal to the Board of Review is July 30th. If you don't file by July 30th, you can't get relief from the Board of Review. You can file evidence later, and Mike will explain that. Now, as I've told people, Mike joined 8 years ago. It's amazing to me. He has played a role in having us get our computer systems up, and there's more data about your property than you could ever imagine that's available to you to look at, which will help you also compare your property to others. He'll go through that. It's because of his vision that I think I have optimism that we're going to see significant changes in the assessed values here in Evanston, because they just didn't seem to make sense when the assessor gave them to us. And tonight you'll hear about how you can protect your property. Remember, for most of our citizens, this is the most valuable asset you have. And if you're not using your eyes to protect your property, nobody else will. My privilege to give it to my colleague, Commissioner Mike Carbonarci.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Hi, everybody. Hi. So thank you, Commissioner Sufferton. Thank you, City of Evanston, for having us here tonight. As Larry mentioned, what we're going to do tonight is briefly explain the property tax appeal system to you so you know where we fit into it, explain the tax system, and then most importantly, make ourselves available to you here tonight. So if you're with the Board of Review and you're an analyst, can you raise your hand? So these are the same folks that if you took time off work to come downtown, you'd be appearing before these folks as hearing officers. So we just asked them to come out tonight so you don't have to take time off work and come downtown. So good news, nothing you do here tonight will cause your taxes to go up. Nothing you do will cause your neighbor's taxes to go up, and everything is free. Okay, so somebody's going to say, well, I think I'm probably right in the range. Am I going to go up even further if I get on your radar screen? Nope. I have the best job in government. I want to make sure you're not overassessed. Okay? If you're the lowest on the block, you stay the lowest on the block. Tax system, probably familiar with it, but just in case you're not, the big takeaway here is, as you can see, property taxes are raised locally and they're spent locally. You know, 60% of what you pay in taxes goes to your local schools. Evanston takes a little bit less than 20% in there. Cook County takes around 8% now. The big takeaway, it doesn't go to Springfield, it doesn't go to DC, it all stays here. Tax offices, Commissioner Sufferton mentioned it, it starts with the assessor. The assessor does a review of your property and says, this is the value. If you think it's too high, you come to the Board of Review. While we're looking at the value of your property, the clerk's office is collecting the tax rates. Schools, libraries, parks, the village, the county, all of those rates. When the rates are collected and the value is finalized, it goes to the treasurer. They put those two together, mail you a bill, and then the money is electronically transferred to the taxing bodies. I'm pleased to say that for now the 8th year in a row, the bills are going to go out on time, which is no small feat, because if we don't get the bills out on time, schools don't open on time, and if they do open, they have to take a loan out. So the bills have a pay date of August 1, and that'll mean that Evanston and ETHS will get the wire transfer later that month. So role of the tax offices, you have two rights to appeal. You can go to the assessor and you can go to the board. If you miss the deadline for the assessor, you can start with the board. You don't have to go through them. You can start with us. If you got relief at the assessor, you can come to the board for further relief. Okay, we're two completely separate offices. Okay, what we do here today never goes back to the assessor for them to sign off. We have the last word. Okay, and we actually have benefits in our appeals process. You have the right to a hearing, and you have the right to submit evidence at the board. So again, we are not the assessor's office, different person. We're the Board of Review, and you have a right of appeal with us. How the tax bill is calculated, it's pretty straightforward. It's the assessed value of the property multiplied against the tax rate and something called the state equalizer. That puts Cook County in alignment with the rest of the state. So it's the assessed value and the rate. Why do we put the value here in green? Because we can affect this. Okay, the tax rates we have no input on. No input on the tax rates. But if that value goes lower, then your bill should go lower. Assessed value, it's a fancy term. It's just a reflection of market value. So we start with figuring out the fair market value, and then after that, we learn the assessed value. The assessed value is a percentage of the fair market value. And in Cook County, we have two classifications, residential and commercial. Residential is a class 2. That's 10% of the fair market value. Commercial is 25%. So if you have a $400,000 building and it's got a Starbucks in it, the assessed value is $100,000. Commercial building, 25%. 25% of $400,000 is $100,000. If that's a home, the assessed value is only $40,000. So every other county in the state of Illinois does 33 1/3%. But in Cook County, because we've got, candidly, the Loop and a large commercial business district, we're able to have two classifications, commercial and residential. So your tax bill comes out twice a year. There's a blue bill that's mailed to you February with a pay date of March 1, and then the yellow bill that you've got here tonight, that was mailed to you July 1 with a pay date of August 1. So again, to remind you, the appeal we're doing here tonight is for a bill that's going to show up next year. The bill that you have that's due August 1, that appeal period closed, and you have to pay that. But what we're looking at is next year's value so that next year's bill can be corrected. So the first installment bill, the blue bill, is really straightforward. It's just 55% of last year's bill. That's the amount, 55%. No exemptions show up on here, no relief from the board. It's just 55%, straight math. The second installment bill, the yellow bill, has any exemptions you're receiving, right over here. These are the exemptions, and then any relief from the board. Okay, so the exemptions and the relief are on there. Okay, and if you've got a copy of that yellow bill tonight, we can walk you through it to make sure you're getting all the exemptions you're entitled to. So what are the exemptions? So our main job is to take a look at the value of your property, and we're going to talk to that in a minute. But since we've got you here, we want to point out exemptions. Exemptions are created by the General Assembly, and they're administered by the county. And if you're eligible for any of these exemptions, we've got the application forms for you here tonight. Exemptions automatically exempt part of the value of your home from taxation. So they automatically are going to lower what you pay in a bill. Okay, so what are the most common exemptions? The homeowner exemption. You own the home, you live in the home, you pay taxes in the home. You get a homeowner's exemption. Doesn't matter how much you make, how old you are, how long you've lived there, you're entitled to one homeowner's exemption. Senior exemption. If you're 65 or older, doesn't matter how much money you make or how long you've lived there, in addition to the homeowner exemption, you also get a senior exemption. Okay, so I'm pleased to say too that senior exemption will stay with the property and you don't have to reapply every year. So if you're a senior who's been receiving the senior exemption, every February up until this year, you've been getting a letter from the assessor saying, please confirm you're still over 65, which I don't understand why I'd ask that, and that you still live at the home. Because that letter is insane, and why are we sending it out? The General Assembly wisely killed the annual renewal. So once you apply for your senior exemption, it will stay on the home. For the homeowner or the senior exemption, if it gets dropped, it's not a problem. We can put you back on it. If you find out after you've paid the bill that the bill you paid was wrong because you weren't getting your homeowner exemption or you weren't getting your senior exemption, we can work with you to go back up to 3 years to get a refund. It's called a certificate of error. We've got those forms here tonight. Okay, so if you go home and you go back and go, for some reason it got dropped last year, maybe you're out of town when the letter came through in February and the assessor dropped your senior exemption, we can go back and get you a refund. Next is the senior freeze. Not really an exemption, but it fits in here for our discussion. Senior freeze is similar to a senior exemption. If you're 65 or older and the household income is below $65,000, used to be $55,000, they actually increased it, so there's more people that are eligible. $65,000 or less, then the value of that home is frozen. And it stays frozen as long as that senior on fixed income is there. Okay, this is a great program, and we're really encouraging people to apply as we're seeing the values coming back up. The idea here is we want to keep seniors who have lived in their home, have made the neighborhood stable and strong, but the values are going up. We don't want to price them out. So that's the senior freeze program. That's another line that'll show up under exemptions on your bill. Finally, there's a disabled homeowner exemption. If you have a disability and the Secretary of State's office has sent you a letter saying you have a disability, let us know. We have a disabled homeowner exemption. And there are 2 veterans exemptions. If you have a service-connected disability, you'll know this because the VA sent you a letter with the percentage of that disability. Let us know. We have a disabled veterans exemption. The percentage of that service-connected disability is the amount of the exemption. So this year, we've calculated as if you have a 70% or more service-connected disability, then your home is fully exempt. Okay, and we've got those forms here tonight too. Also, there's a returning veterans exemption. So this has no disability. This is targeted toward veterans coming back from active duty to civilian life. The year they come back to civilian life and the following year after active duty, it's a 2-year exemption, then they get an additional returning veterans exemption. Okay, if you're eligible for more than one of these, you can stack them up and get multiple exemptions. And again, we've got the forms here tonight. So as I said before, that's the exemptions. Our job at the Board of Review is to collect your complaint forms, review the evidence, conduct a hearing if you request it, and have an appeal and process the appeal of the value of your home. So what can you appeal? The assessed value. We cannot hear an appeal on the tax rate, the qualifications for an exemption, the value of an exemption. At the board, all we have jurisdiction on is the assessed value. But if that value drops, as we showed before with the formula, your bill should drop too. So mentioned before, it starts with the assessor and then it goes to the board of review. If you think that we've still screwed up, that the value is still too high and we're not hearing you, we want you to know what the next step is. You have the right to either go to the State Property Tax Appeal Board, which is a state agency that has an office in Des Plaines, and you can file a complaint with them. They're the next level of review after us. Or you can go to the circuit court and file suit at the circuit court. Filing suit at the circuit court has court fees and you need a lawyer. And at PTAB, they have a 3-year backlog. So we try and get it right at our level, but we want you to know what your avenues of relief are after us, because you do have options: PTAB, Property Tax Appeal Board, and Circuit Court of Cook County. Board of Review, it's basically a 3-judge appellate court. Again, we're completely separate from the assessor. We review the assessor's work. You give us jurisdiction, you fill a complaint out tonight, you give us jurisdiction, you ask us, take a look at the assessor's work. There are 3 of us, each of us is elected by a third of the county, but all 3 of us, myself and my 2 colleagues, our offices are going to review your complaint. We don't divide it a third, a third, a third. So your complaint will be randomly assigned to one of the 3 commissioners. His staff will take a look at it, collect the evidence, review the evidence, conduct a hearing if it's requested, make a decision. It'll go to the 2nd commissioner. They'll take a look at the same. It'll go to the 3rd commissioner. So it's reviewed by 3 different commissioners. If 2 of the 3 of us agree to give you relief, it automatically goes forward. No review by the assessor or the treasurer or anything like that. But it's going to be reviewed by 3 staffs. When can you appeal? The big deadline is here, July 30th. July 30th. That is when we close Evanston Township this year for the appeals. Okay? That date changes somewhat, but Evanston is usually the first township we open in July, so it's usually around July 30th. Okay, it's a good idea to calendar that in July is when we're going to be hearing appeals from Evanston. Cook County has 1.8 million parcels of land, 1.8 million properties. So because there's that many properties, the assessor does what's called a triennial assessment. So the city of Chicago, here in Lime Green, the city has 50% of the properties in Cook County. The south suburbs have a little less than 25%, and Evanston and the northern suburbs have the other 25%. Okay? This is the reassessment year for Evanston. You are getting a new value. The assessor will not come through and for 3 years to give you another value after that. However, you can and you should appeal that value every year of that triennial reassessment. Again, it's free. You've already paid for us out of your taxes. File a free appeal with us. The only thing I can't do is sign it for you. File the free appeal each of those 3 years so we can take a look. Okay? How do you appeal? 93% of our appeals now come in online, and we'll talk about that in a second, but we'll always have paper forms, and that's what we brought out here tonight. The paper complaint form. We only need 3 pieces of evidence from you tonight. You can leave the rest of it blank. We need your name, we need the address of the property, and we need you to sign it. So the mailing address of the property is probably your mailing address. It's probably the address of your home. If it's different, put the mailing address and the address of the property on different lines. Okay, so maybe you own a condo that is an investment property and it's not your home, but you're using it as an investment property. The address of the property will go here, the mailing address up here. But for most people here tonight, your name, your mailing address, check the box, same as above, sign it, and you're done. If you know your PIN, you can put it in here, your property index number. But the analyst is going to pull the PIN and everything else up from your file when we start the review process. So again, to appeal online, cookcountyboardofreview.com, cookcountyboardofreview.com. If you've ever used Amazon or Netflix or anything online, it's the same. User ID, password, create an account. And again, most people are using it now electronically. It's just really easy. It's easy for us to communicate with you electronically. You can see our evidence electronically as well. Saves paper. It's more efficient. You're not having to read our chicken scratches. We're not having to read your handwriting. But again, paper complaints are just fine too. We'll always take those. So additional evidence, and we'll talk about what the analyst is going to do with the complaint form when she or he receives it, but you have the right to give us additional evidence. And what we've heard from folks when they come out to the outreach is, there's just 1 or 2 things I want to tell you, and I don't necessarily want to come downtown for a hearing. I don't want to mail it in. Is there a way I can just give you the evidence tonight? So If you don't give us the evidence, the analyst is going to pull the comparable properties and do the analysis. You don't have to do anything other than sign the complaint form and leave it with us. We'll pull all the evidence up. But if there is some evidence you want to give us, we've created this evidence form. It's completely optional. We have to have the complaint form, but this is optional. And we've got these as well. This is just a way if you just, in your own words, tell us what you'd like us to know that you want to point us to, that you're worried we might not find out. So what are some pieces of evidence you might want to point us to? We're going to see comparable properties. We'll show you in a minute where we're finding it, but maybe there's one that's sold in your building or in your block recently in the past month, and you just want to make sure it hits our system. Fine, you can say unit 112 in my building just sold. Great. We'll probably see that, but you want to point that to us. If you've bought your home in the past 12 months and you paid less than what the assessor has it at, that's great evidence. So fill out the evidence form, put your phone number and your email address, and we'll probably reach out to you to ask for a copy of your closing docs. So the assessor says your home is $300,000, you paid $285,000, great evidence, right? Fair market value again. That's what you paid on the fair market. We're going to want to see a copy of the closing document. Similarly, if you refinance the home, you've lived there for a while, but the mortgage rates dropped, so you locked in a better mortgage. I bet in their mortgage closing refi paperwork, there's a bank appraisal. Take a look at that bank appraisal. Bank said your home's worth $285,000 and they loaned you on $285,000, but the assessor says your home's at $300,000. That's great evidence. We don't look at Zillow, we don't look at Redfin, but appraisers are registered and licensed with the state. We give them credibility. Okay. Also, different factors on the home, special factors. The best example of that is a flood. I have a basement in Cook County. I run a dehumidifier. That's not the same as a flood. A flood is you had water in the basement and it permanently affected the property. You had to tear out drywall, you lost a bathroom, you lost a bedroom, you lost your boiler. That's something in the house that we're not going to be able to see, and it'll affect the long-term value of the property. That's when on that evidence form you might want to say we had flood damage. Again, your email address and your phone number so we can reach out to you maybe for a copy of an insurance claim or some other supporting documentation. So, as I mentioned, we're going to do the evidence gathering for you. We're going to identify the comparable properties. And folks want to know, well, what are you looking at? So we thought we'd show you. We created this website a couple years ago called cookcountypropertyinfo.com. And when I say we, I mean every office in Cook County that touches your home. The Board of Review, the assessor, the treasurer, the recorder of deeds. We all created this one website, and when you put your PIN in it, or your address, you can do by address or by PIN, when you hit enter, what you get is a complete copy of a report on your home. Okay, so cookcountypropertyinfo.com is a one-stop shop. You get the photo the assessor has, the property address, mailing address of the bill, any appeals you filed with the board and the status of them, the exemptions that you're receiving. You can see here it says 1 exemption received, probably a homeowner. If you click on that, it'll tell you. But the year before, it says 0, right? Should always say 1, homeowner exemption, right? A tax bill, the amounts you've paid down here, any refunds that are available, any liens that have been placed on it. I encourage you, once a year, go on here, put your home in there, make sure that it's all correct. If any of it is not correct, give us a call at the Board of Review. If it's our office, we'll fix it. If it's one of the other offices that I mentioned, we'll connect you with them. Thanks. So, I'm sorry, just jump back for a sec, Mike. So, comparables. So what we're looking at is we want to find comparable properties to your home in your neighborhood, okay? Age of the home, style of the home, building material of the home, location of the home. So what we did, because we heard from folks, is where can I see the comparables that you're using, is we moved onto this screen a button that takes you to Cook Viewer. There's this little red dot with a house in the middle and it says Cook Viewer. If you were to click onto Cook Viewer, it'll bring you to the county's GIS system, our mapping system. This is what the analyst sees. See this lime green building here? That's the subject property. So we put in the address of the subject property, and then on the left, the analyst starts pulling down menus to find comparable properties. You know, if this is a 2,000 square foot, 90-year-old frame house, going to pull down frame, going to pull down age of the property, going to put down square footage, and over here, all of those comparable properties are going to light up. Okay, and then again, If it's a neighborhood, and we don't really see it as much in Evanston, we might, but if we have to go outside of this neighborhood, we can always scale back and find more comparable properties. So again, if you want to see what we're seeing, it's Cook Viewer, and if you ever want to take a look at it, you're looking at moving, buying another property, what have you, Cook Viewer is a great place to go. And it's also got some other functions on it as well, but these are the most popular ones. Hearings. You absolutely have the right to a hearing, but it's completely optional. So under the state statute, we're required to offer hearings. One of the reasons we do these outreaches is we can avoid people having to have a hearing. If you want a hearing, on the complaint form in red, it says, I opt to have a hearing before the Cook County Board of Review at 118 North Clark. If you mark that off, we'll send you a letter with the date and time of your hearing that you can come before the board. The function of hearings is for us to collect evidence, right? So you can submit the evidence ahead of time. Again, we've got the evidence sheet for you to tell us. You can mail something in. But if you'd like to come downtown, maybe your property is special and unique, and you'd like to talk to a hearing officer, mark hearing, and again, we'll send you the date and time of your hearing. Attending a hearing by itself doesn't guarantee any kind of a change. If you get busy and you can't make your hearing, there's no penalty in missing the hearing date. Again, the function of a hearing for us is to take in evidence. And then probably the most important number is my number at the board, 312-603-5560. You will get home and think of something and want to call tomorrow. Please do. 312-603-5560. This is some of the websites we talked about. Cook County Property Info. That'll take you to Cook Viewer. Board of Review, cookcountyboardofreview.com to appeal online. cookcountyassessor.com has printout. You can print out the applications for those exemptions, and then the treasurer.com to get a copy of your bill. Okay, we will be here. The analysts and I will be here as long as you want us to be here. We're always the ones to put away the chairs. We're always the last one here. So we're going to queue up on the sides over here and be here to answer your questions. But if you just want to fill out the complaint form, like I said, you can fill it out, sign it, and go home. But we're here as long as you want us to be here. So thank you all very much. Yeah, is the presentation available online?
It's going to be videoed on the city cable, and they'll be rerunning it.
It's being recorded on city cable, and I think if you go to our website at Cook County Board of Review, we have this information on the deck too. Okay, thank you, everybody.